Good morning, I am Praram Badahal. Let's begin with the main stories. Ruling Nepal Communist Party having hard time to complete lower organizational unification. Nepali Congress hopeful of finalizing draft of its new statute in a week's time. Government prepares for second investment summit instead of focusing on creating investment-friendly atmosphere. Flamboyant pledges made during the first summit failed to materialize. Death toll in a passenger train accident in Yelan County in Taiwan rises to 18. Dozens reported injured. And Inter Milan secured a 1-0 win over AC Milan in the derby. Everton blanked Crystal Palace 2-0 with late goals at the English Premier League. The ruling Nepal Communist Party has failed to make headway regarding the integration of the lower party's ranks yesterday as well. The Secretariat meeting has been suspended until today due to the continuing differences. While officially announcing the merger, leaders of both the then CPN-UML and CPN-Maoist Center had pledged to complete the unification up to the lower ranks within 3 months. But the unification process has failed to complete even after the lapse of 5 months. At the same time, senior leader of Nepal Communist Party, Madhav Kumar Nepal, has expressed dissatisfaction in public over the selection of the provincial in charges, chiefs and secretaries. In a meeting held at the Prime Minister's residence in Balutar, leaders close to the senior leader demanded Nepal Communist Party co-chairman KP Sharma Oli to amend his decision, alleging that the leadership had tried to wipe out the faction associated with senior leader Nepal. Likewise, demands have been raised within the party itself to replace the existing ministers, citing that they have failed to live up to the people's expectation. Meanwhile, the meeting rejected the resignation tendered by lawmaker Rambir Manandar, who was elected from Kathmandu constituency number 7. The statute drafting subcommittee of Nepali Congress has informed that it would submit the draft of the new statute to the main committee within a week. The main committee will revise the draft based on requirements and then present it at the central committee. The drafting subcommittee is preparing the draft by erasing complicated provisions for membership and ensuring no major changes in the number of members at the central committee and party office bearers. The committee is trying to find an outlet to manage the faction of Vijay Kumar Gatchadar, as the number of officials is not likely to be increased by much. After the first edition of the investment summit held 2 years ago, the government is set to organize a second edition in 4 months' time. However, not even 2% of the committed 1.4 trillion rupees have been invested in Nepal. An investment summit was held in Kathmandu on the 2nd and 3rd of March in 2017. A total of 1.4 trillion rupees in investment was pledged in the summit, which featured the participation of 250 companies from 24 nations. Despite the lapse of 2 years since the summit, only around 2% of the committed amount has been invested in Nepal. The implementation of the commitment was as equally disappointing in magnitude as was the optimism induced by the pledges. The government is now making preparations for a second round of the investment summit. The question that remains unanswered is the reason for holding a second investment summit when the pledges of the previous summit have yet to be implemented. Despite the talks of foreign investment, Nepal does not cater a conducive environment for the same. Investment will not increase by organizing summits unless improvements are made in the existing complicated procedures, along with the incapable and greed-driven bureaucracy. It is now time for a short break, but for more news, to stay with us. The Ministry of Home Affairs has moved forward the process to dismiss SP Diliraj Bista, the then Kantipur police chief, and Inspector Jagdish Vatta for their negligence during the investigation of rape and murder of girl child Nirmala Phanta. Home Secretary Prem Kumar Rai said that the decision to sack the police officers would be taken after seeking their clarification regarding the case. The Home Ministry gave a 24-hour ultimatum to them yesterday to defend the charges of mishandling the investigation. The police headquarters had recommended dismissal of the officers prior to the Dasai vacation. 13-year-old Nimala Panta was found strangulated to death after being raped on 27th of July on a sugarcane field near her house. The entire police team, however, has failed to identify the culprits as of yet. Suspended Police Chief Bista and his associates have been accused of intentionally destroying the evidences and attempting to protect the real culprits with regard to the case. Separate committees under the Home Ministry and the police headquarters were formed to probe into the heinous crime as the investigation carried out by the Kantipur police was dragged into controversy followed by protests across the country. SP Bista and Inspector Vatta are being prosecuted based on the reports submitted by both the committees. We've got more news coming up, but right now it's time for yet another short break. The people across the country were elated, anticipating easy access to the rights and privileges confined to Singhadarbar after the local level elections. The local governments, however, have imposed unreasonable taxes on the public, mainly to cover the expenses related to salaries and facilities of the people's representatives. In this context, we had asked the residents of Palpa what their view is regarding the arbitrary taxes being imposed at the local level. Let us now take a look at what they had to say.
Public voice.
जनताका चाहना अथवा इच्छा र जनताको अवस्थालाई नबुझिकन दरलाई चाहिँ जुन किसिमले वृद्धि गरिएको छ त्यो चाहिँ सच्याउनु पर्ने छ, त्यसले जनतालाई नै भार थप्छ।
कर वृद्धि भएछ त्यो हामीलाई पटक्कै सन्तुष्टि छैन। उहाँलाई हामीले जिताएर के सुविधा सुलभ सहयोग हुन्छ कि भनेर भनेको
200% 300% वृद्धि भइरहेको छ। यो एकैपल्ट वृद्धि गर्न हुँदैन। यसले गर्दाखेरि जनताहरूलाई एउटा घात सेक्ने हिसाबले असर पर्दछ।
गणतन्त्रलाई संस्थागत गर्ने र देशलाई समृद्ध तर्फ अगाडि बढाउने हो भने यो करहरूलाई अहिले अगाडि बढाएर लाँदा राम्रो हुँदैन। यो करहरू चाहिँ सरकारले जुन बढाएको भन्ने छ यो चाहिँ राम्रो कुरो होइन।
स्थानीय सरकार जनताप्रति उत्तरदायी भएको छ, राम्रो काम गरेको छ भन्ने कुराको प्रभाव जनतालाई दिएर मात्रै कर वृद्धि गर्नुपर्ने हो, तर अहिले त्यस्तो अवस्था देखिँदैन।
हामीसँग बसेर खुलस्त यति % बढाइया छ भन्ने पनि हामीलाई यकिन छैन र यो उसमा बढाइया छ, यो दार यसो बढाइया छ भन्ने त्यो छैन।
It is now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
The question is, why is there no inflow of foreign investment as committed? Your options are A, absence of investment-friendly environment, B, small market, and C, complicated procedure for profit transfer. The voting is on. You can type NEWS, select your option A, B or C, and then send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. With this, let us move on to the sports news.
Sports news.
The date of the 8th National Games has been postponed by 2 months. The athletes of Karnali province have been saddened by the deferral and are worried whether the National Games would even be held on the postponed date. The 8th National Games were scheduled for 24th of November and the athletes of Karnali province were busy in preparation even during the festival of Dasai. But after the National Sports Council pushed back the date for the National Games by 2 months, the athletes have stopped their preparations. The 8th National Games were scheduled for 24th of November and the athletes of Karnali were busy even during the festival of Dasai. The National Sports Council, trying to hold the National Games without proper preparations and postponing the events, citing inadequate infrastructure, has weakened the morale of the athletes. And now, before we wrap up, here's a look at the top stories one more time. Ruling Nepal Communist Party having hard time to complete lower organizational unification. Nepali Congress hopeful of finalizing draft of its new statute in a week's time. Government prepares for second investment summit instead of focusing on creating investment-friendly atmosphere. Flamboyant pledges made during the first summit failed to materialize. Death toll in a passenger train accident in Yelan County of Taiwan climbs to 18. Dozens reported injured. And Inter Milan secure a 1-0 win over AC Milan in the derby. Everton blanked Crystal Palace 2-0 with late goals at the English Premier League. That is all for the moment. Our next English bulletin will air at 11 a.m. Keep watching Kantipur Television SD for more news and entertainment. Thank you for watching. Have a great day ahead.